How is this still going on? This verse been going for way too long. If you ain't blind, you can see that this is wrong. And I won't comply. Not me, no way. I may be.
Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. The viral meme that is going worldwide that Marty started. He said, "I am a hardworking Canadian, and because I made a different medical decision, Justin Trudeau thinks I'm a deplorable or somebody who a violent extremist, somebody who needs to be dealt with." And he's sparked this off, and it's gone worldwide. And they're desperately trying to say, "Oh, it's bots. That's bots. That's not real people." And I've got lots of videos and examples for you. Not a huge amount, but enough that enough. And it's incredible. It's incredible. This meme, how impactful it is. It's devastating to Trudeau. Devastating. Justin going on another trip to the United Nations General Assembly this time. Can't wait to find out who else is going to get our borrowed tax dollars. Blanchette walks out during the Queen's Memorial. I don't have video of this, but I heard about this and I wanted to mention it, but I don't have video. I talked about it. Well, I talked about it with my family. I heard about it from my family. I didn't see it actually happening because I just thought, oh, I'll just watch the highlights. And I haven't even seen the highlights really. I haven't seen anything much about it. I think it's not being talked about very much. Probably, well, I don't watch the mainstream news anyway, because why, right? Rumors abound. Anyway, I wanted to mention about Blanchette. Rumors abound about the end of the ArriveCan era. They're saying that Trudeau may let the ArriveCan app expire on September 30th. So what's going to happen with that, right? Very interesting. It's coming from the Toronto Star, and they definitely seem to have insider information. So if they're talking about rumors and unnamed sources, I think that gives a bit of weight to it. Boosemgate goes in unexpected directions. So the high school teacher who is wearing a large prosthetic breast, massive prosthetic breast, is going in a very unexpected direction, and we're going to talk about that, and there's a lot more to get to as well. So let's get to it. First, if you want to support the show, head over to CanadaPoly.com. You can check out the forums. They're free. You can do a one-time payment or a monthly subscription. You can check out my book or the merch. You can sign up for Kitchen Table Talks happening today if you're interested. 1 p.m. Eastern time. Somebody asked me if it was 6:30 p.m. and I thought I'd changed it all to 1. So apologies. It is 1 p.m. So sorry about that, everyone. I'll probably send out another email today to say, 1 p.m. because I don't want anybody confused. And Toronto time, Eastern time. And if you shop at Amazon and you want to support the show that way, you can click here. You can check out Locals and support the show through Locals if you're interested in that. And you can check out Canada Report as well if you're interested in the links that I used to build the show. Here's Vivian, and she says, "This is the guy who started the Trudeau must go trend, not some insurrectionist cabal financed by shady interests. Sad that some feel the need to undermine and taint what is genuinely a grassroots movement by casting unfounded and sinister aspirations. Sunny ways indeed." And this is Marty here, and I accidentally showed you the first guy to do it, but here he is. He says, "I'm a 55-year-old Canadian. I'm married, father to 4, university educated, and perfectly bilingual. I'm an engineer solving problems for 35 years. I'm a volunteer hockey coach and an avid outdoorsman. According to Trudeau, I'm an extremist who needs to be dealt with. Trudeau must go." And that hashtag is being absolutely slammed by Twitter. It is not being allowed to trend. They're disrupting it, and I've got proof. I'll show you that as well. Here's Marty in his own words. I think this is so good. We'll listen to the whole thing. Here we go.
Hey Twitter, how's it going? Marty up north here. It's Saturday afternoon, actually Saturday evening. Just walking on my acreage here. And not hiding anything there. You can see my last name on that sign there. Last name is Blanchette. And you guys know me on Twitter and on YouTube as Marty Up North. And just want to send a quick message to Gerald Butts and Dean Blundell and a few others. But in particular, Gerald, I'm the guy who accidentally started this Twitter storm, this Trudeau must resign. Started on Tuesday morning, and the catalyst for that is I was arguing with somebody over words that your master Trudeau had said last year on a Quebec TV show. Durant l'émission, M. Trudeau avait mentionné que la majorité du monde qui sont contre la vaccination sont contre la science, sont misogynes, sont racistes. So, in that interview in Quebec, Trudeau had said that the majority of anti-vaxxers were anti-science and misogynistic and racist. And I was referencing that video in another comment to somebody else, and I was adding captions to it. But as I was and I was familiar with that video, and I'd seen that video before, but suddenly it struck on me. I'm like, bullshit. How dare Trudeau call me, I have valid reasons for not being vaccinated, and they're my reasons only, and I don't need to explain my reasons to anybody. But how dare Trudeau call me anti-science and misogynistic? So that's why I posted that little bio. I am an engineer. I've been in this, as I've just demonstrated, I'm bilingual. I'm a father of 4. I live in Alberta, in the country. I just want to live and be left alone. But in the last 7 years, Trudeau's been taking this country down a bullshit path. And I'm fed up. And I posted that. And my post resonated with others who are also fed up. So we're not bots. And the mainstream that's missing the story, this is the story. 200,000 Canadians and climbing are pissed off at Trudeau. That's the story.
And it was approaching 500,000 trending when they started disrupting the hashtag. And I'm going to show you proof of that in a minute. First, Dean says, I've never seen a Canadian politics Twitter explosion like this according to Trudeau trend. Average Canadians posting their personal pics and stories is devastating for Trudeau. He's done. Yes, I fundamentally, I think so. That little line made me think of this, and it made me laugh today, so I'm going to play it, and then we're going to carry on.
The words of one of my actual friends, you're basic. It's a human insult. It's devastating. You're devastated right now.
That's where the title comes from. Okay, sorry. A little bit of a silly aside, but carrying on. They're desperately trying to suppress this. And this guy, I know this guy's a satire account, the bot guy, him. He's not a journalist or whatever, but he says, when they pass Bill C-11 and they're in Senate, they're examining it in the Senate right now, and I'm not confident. Anyway, they're going to try again. If the Senate sends it back, they're going to try and pass it again. So anyway, when they pass Bill C-11, we will not be allowed to have protests like this on Twitter. They want to censor our internet and every discussion on it like we are in China or North Korea. Yeah, when that happens, the internet is, as we knew it, is done. And I don't know how to deal with that, but I would imagine shows like mine, news like Rebel News or True North, it'll be very difficult to pursue that with the idea of pursuing it as a business. And if you pursue it as a hobby, then you may be targeted by people who think that your continued reporting might be dangerous to the regime. If they're going to these lengths to censor the internet, they're not just going to let people continue to speak out against the regime. These are first steps, but after these first steps are taken, the rest are super easy, because once you take out the internet, who's going to talk about disappearing people? It's terrible, but we need to think about it this way, unfortunately. Here is formerly known as showing proof that he can't tweet out, Trudeau has to go, Trudeau has to go, Trudeau has to go, Trudeau has got to go, etc. And this is one way to disrupt tweets, but what they were doing is making sure that the trending hashtag stopped trending, because it's very damaging to Justin Trudeau and his narrative. Here's Kale. He says, I'm a 36-year-old entrepreneur who's been working since I was 14, 2 businesses, 8 employees, multiple rental properties, always the guy to call if you need help with anything, contributing member of society. Apparently I'm an extremist and not to be tolerated. So bam, just the format alone, everybody's on board. Now somebody was saying, would this be the perfect way to get a catalog of extremists, government, people who are against the government? Give this to your Skynet Terminator bots. Go. Your Twitter Terminator bots. KL continues. This is the same guy who I was just showing you. He says, I want to make it clear, since the mainstream media and people like Dean Blundell are trying to say this trend is based on bots, I'm not a bot and I'm not being paid to say this. I'm a patriotic Canadian who's tired of Trudeau's lies, gaslighting, and division. So yeah, right? Yes, I agree. I just think it's so interesting that Dean Blundell gets so much air. Why does anybody care what he says? Why? It's not like he's particularly... When he speaks about something, I don't sit there and think, oh, I wonder where he's going with this. He's probably going to make a really good point. Anyway, regardless. Maybe he makes some people laugh, but I never found him funny. Ever. when he tried to insult me. I found him funny then because I thought, oh my goodness, this is like arguing with a toddler. Like, but that kind of funny, right? Okay, Ryan says, I've counted maybe 60 tweets in the last 12 hours saying this hashtag, it should not be trending. This is Twitter trends manipulation. So Ryan's taken a picture of Freedom Convoy. The idea and inversion of making fun of people who want freedom is foreign to me. It's ridiculous. You make yourself look stupid, right? It's like, I don't even know a comparison, but a hypocritical person laughing at somebody who's successful and wallowing in their own lack of success and saying, haha, sucker, you have to go to work. And the person who's going to work has, a successful life and successful whatever, like is generally successful, living their life, doing their thing, wanting to be left alone. And then the person who's not successful in life is sitting there going, haha, you suck. Okay, see you later, man. Like, what are you accomplishing? This doesn't make any sense. See you later. Why give them any credence? I don't understand. This is Gerald Butts. He's questioning the reality or the where did this come from, right? Who's paying for this? Gerald Butts is responding to here. I don't know how to say her name, but she breaks down the format. And I am a blank who blank. And according to Biden Trudeau, so this is in the States happening too. I am an extremist, misogynist, racist, blah, blah, blah. This is a campaign that ended September 9th in the USA and is now in Canada. Same group, same plan, same bots. No, man, I haven't seen any real evidence of that. Not at all. And Gerald Butts says the real question is who's paying for this campaign. And Misha says, who paid for the scripted, I tested positive for COVID, but my symptoms are mild. I'm recovering at home in isolation. So glad I got my vaccines and boosters. Make sure you do the same, that every politician posted and that were word for word identical. Good question. We paid for that. That was our tax dollars paying for that. Here's another real Canadian talking about how he's real and not a white supremacist. This gentleman is black. It only matters because other people keep bringing up people's race. I mean, I think the content of your character, who you are, not your skin color, matters more. Just me personally, right? That's what Canada used to be. That's what I thought we were told in the 90s when I was growing up and I was in high school, right? And in college. So, man, weird. Here's a gentleman. I think he's in Toronto, but here we go.
So guys, apparently I am a Twitter bot because I went on Twitter and made a post saying that I am 34 years old. I have 2 boys. I'm an engineer and a project manager, and because I made a different medical decision, Justin Trudeau decided that he wanted to call me a racist, a white supremacist, misogynist, anti-science, and all of these other rhetorics. So I want these people who are saying that I am a bot to see that I am a real life human being. What goes into my body is my choice. You do not have a right to tell me what to put in my body and what not to put in my body. You do not have a right to tell me who to associate with and who not to associate with. Justin Trudeau must go.
Devastating, right? And I just think that this kind of grassroots campaign, it's already being suppressed. We don't have C11 passed. If C11 passes, you won't know about this. No, who will tell you? Who would tell you? Here's a going worldwide. I'm a British mother of 3. I believe in natural immunity and trusting the immune system. I believe in bodily autonomy. I stand with my Canadian brethren against tyranny and vaccine mandates, according to Trudeau. That makes me an extremist. Hashtag Trudeau's got to go, Canada. Because they started disrupting Trudeau must go. So they started more hashtags, similar hashtags. But CTV News, thank you, CTV, for correcting the record. The hashtag, I don't know who this is. I thought it was Evan Solomon, but I didn't look very closely at his face. But CTV News, the banner at the bottom of the news ticker says, hashtag Trudeau must go. Fake bots help to popularize anti-prime minister message on Twitter. So what happened? Was it real Canadians or was it fake bots? Here is a gentleman, and he is talking about how he's an influencer. And he was offered $400 to promote that MAGA Republicans talked about conspiracy, or what was it? Attempted criminal conspiracy, not attempted coup, not treason or insurrection, criminal conspiracy. So here, I'll just show you a little bit of this. It's wild stuff out there, man. And I don't know if this one is true, but there's so many things like this that give credence to the possibility that our government is paying to manufacture this nonsense, paying influencers like, oh, I don't know, who could we think of who might take money to put out content that the government tells them to put out, regardless of whether it's real or fake. Dean Blundell, right? I mean, what? Who could it be? I'm not sure. But anyway, here is an example of people in the United States using this tactic. Maybe they're using it here. Dean Blundell.
I was just offered $400 to make an anti-Donald Trump propaganda post related to the January 6th investigation that is completely not true. I should start out this video by saying I'm not a Donald Trump supporter, so that should give a little bit of context to where I'm coming from. I'm an attorney. I post legal news and analysis on related topics. Okay, here we go with the story. So first thing first, I get an email from somebody with the Good Info Foundation. We'll talk about them a little more in a minute. I'm going to refer to this person as Jane. Jane sent me a message letting me know she represented the Good Info Foundation and that she was willing to offer a paid collaboration to discuss some topics related to January 6th. I said, sure, why not? I'll learn some more. Jane says the Good Info Foundation will give me $400 to make a post on my page and then share it to Instagram. So you see that blue link? All right, here we're going to follow it. These are the specific requirements in order to obtain that $400 of how I should refer to the January 6th Capitol raid. Number one, I must call this a criminal conspiracy. Number two, I must say Trump Republicans were responsible. Number three, I must frame it as an attack on my country, an attack on America or Americans, a criminal conspiracy, and a committed crime. I must attribute the matter to MAGA Republicans. I must make clear that this was ongoing and unresolved. And most importantly, that I must channel all of this unto the manipulation of voter agencies so that I could turn their anger around this event into defiance that would make people more likely to vote in midterms. And the thing that struck me the most was this part, where I was told to talk about the aspects of the Trump campaign's plan. And I was supposed to say that the Trump campaign paid literally millions of dollars to make January 6th happen. So I figured, maybe I missed something. So I said, hey, Jane, what is the basis for the claim that the Trump campaign itself paid millions of dollars to make the January 6th siege of the Capitol happen? Jane doesn't answer the question. Hi, Preston, if you don't want to state that in the video, it's fine. You don't have to use all the bullet points provided. So I kept going. Sure, I'm just wondering if there's support for that claim. Jane doesn't answer again. Let me know if you are interested and the rate works for you. Thanks so much. I'm not interested and the rate doesn't work for me. This is the Good Info Foundation. They boast on their homepage that good information is the lifeblood of a democracy. They further cry that we are in an information crisis. And the crazy thing about all of that? They're right.
Ooh, right? That's when he's got the flashlight at his chin. He's like, woo! The phone call was coming from inside the house. Right? So, scary stuff. Very, very interesting how the manipulation of the internet, the manipulation of influencers through monetary policy, monetary means, through people who are taking government money to run their anti-hate networks, people who are paid money to do studies that have predetermined or previously determined outcomes. All of this kind of stuff is done to manipulate the public into rallying behind the current thing. And it's happening. I mean, jeepers creepers. We're a long way from where we used to be even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2015, 7 years ago. Jeepers creepers. Paul Mitchell says, hey, Justin Trudeau and Duclos, the health minister, is this true? And there's a whole Substack here. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting Substack. I'm going to show you the source as well. It doesn't take very long to read this one, so we're going to read it. Steve Kirsch's newsletter. It says, a new report prepared for the Liberal Party of Canada shows that the vaccines have no benefit for those under 60. Conclusion, the Ontario data show that vaccination currently makes little difference in terms of hospitalization and death rates for those below age 60. A new report prepared by a group of highly qualified experts analyzed the government's data in Ontario and concluded that the vaccines don't reduce hospitalizations and death in those under 60. In other words, we've been lied to. Are you surprised? I don't know about lied to. Like that's a little bit of a jump, I think. But if there is no reduction in hospitalizations and deaths, and there's no review of anything, and people just continue on as if normal, then I think that a good conclusion would be we've been lied to. Right now, it seems like complete, not inept government, but they can hide behind the idea that, oh, there's a pandemic, a global emergency called, etc. It's the legalese behind it that I'm worried about, right? And so saying we've been lied to, and we need to talk like that. We need to call it out, because they're not moving. They're not moving. They're not even making motions to review the vax, the mandates, all of that stuff. It doesn't look like there's a lot of movement on that front from Omar Algebra or the government. I've heard rumors, and we'll talk about that a little later in the show, I think. But fundamentally, the rhetoric used matters, and I think people will turn it off. They're not ready to hear that they've been lied to. I don't think they're ready to hear and confront the trauma. Maybe this is a good way to start. I don't know. I'm not sure. But it seems to me that a person who is on the fence, if they read that, they stop reading the rest of it. And the rest of it is devastating. Keep it the trend. Anyway, lied to. I think we have been lied to. I agree with that assessment. I think that people had good enough indications that people in healthcare, and we've seen good people speak out about it, but there are people who are working in healthcare who have had enough information to lead them to speak out. We should have had a more public conversation about what's going on, a more public conversation about the ineffectiveness, a more public conversation about how other countries are faring with regards to the vaccine and between vaccinated, unvaccinated, and so on and so forth. And we haven't had any of that. We haven't had any of those kind of conversations. And so it seems like more than being lied to, it seems like we're being herded and boxed in. It seems more purposeful than just a willy-nilly lie to get away with it for the pharmaceutical company to make money or something like that. It's more complex than that. Anyway, regardless, it says, are you surprised? Don't assume the report endorses vaccinations for those over 60. It doesn't. Here's the full 26-page report. It concludes, given the statistical evidence provided in this report, the public health policy tools such as mass vaccination campaigns, mandates, passports, and travel restrictions need to be reevaluated for the relevance in this phase of SARS-CoV-2. The abundance of evidence documented by Public Health Ontario and Public Health Agency of Canada and the top-tier scientific journals demonstrates that the vaccines do not prevent infection or hospitalization. The Ontario data shows that vaccination currently makes little difference in terms of hospitalization and death rates for those below the age of 60. Additionally, since there are known risks of adverse events and unknown long-term effects, these must be considered in developing vaccine policies. The empirical evidence investigated in this report from the PHO and PHAC does not support continuing max vaccination programs, mandates, passports, and travel bans for all age groups. Rather, it may be prudent to utilize a more targeted and cost-effective approach focused on vaccinating the high-risk group while factoring in an individual's potential risk of vaccine-related adverse events. That's when the people writing the report remain anonymous and are free to speak the truth without retribution or fear of retribution. Interesting, isn't it? And here's the report, and it's the link in the article. But I just wanted to show you this. It goes through kind of the purpose of the report, caveats and limitations, et cetera. And I'm not going to bore you with all of that. I just want to start with the first question here. Well, it's got a deeper analytical dive, and it's got all of the questions answered through the report here. And the first question is, do the COVID-19 vaccines prevent infection and hospitalization? And I thought, okay, we'll just look at that and see what it says. And it's quite interesting, really. It's figure 1, hospitalizations confirmed post-vaccination cases of COVID-19 by number of days from dose administration to symptom onset by vaccination status, Ontario, December 24th, 2020 to May 2022. And the source is Public Health Ontario. So you can see it's all broken down by vaccination status and so on and so forth. And it says figure 1 shows the cases who are vaccinated with at least one dose or hospitalized over the period December 14th to May 2022. According to the chart, we observe the following highlights. Overall, it is evident that COVID-19 vaccines do not prevent infection or hospitalization, since all of the cases indicated by all colors on the chart in the hospital are vaccinated. These cases represent severe outcomes as indicated in the title in green. The highest number of cases are among those vaccinated but not yet protected in gray. So you can see here, vaccinated but not yet protected. Right? Highest number of cases. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. A rise in hospitalized cases occurs in the fully vaccinated post-series completion in dark blue on the chart within 5 to 6 months or day 155 to 200. So here's where problems happen, and there's a lot of people having that issue. And the fully vaccinated with a booster, post-booster dose in light blue shows an increase in hospitalizations around the first 14 days. The higher frequency of hospitalization continues for about 2.5 months, after which there's an even larger number of cases in the hospital. So just that data alone is very concerning. And I haven't done a deep dive into this report, and it's kind of beyond the scope of today's show, but it is interesting, and the report itself is interesting to read through. And who knows? Are we going to still see these kind of vicious mandates from post-secondary schools? Here's Western for an update. Enough is enough, Western says. Priorities are showing again, Western University. Alumni and guests attending homecoming are not required to disclose their vaccination status. Have to wonder how much donations are drummed up at homecoming. Care to give some insight, Western University? So Western University stood by their vaccine status, but the proof is not until January 2023 now. But their fundraising is getting a hit. And so now they're making sure that people wanting to attend homecoming don't have to be vaccinated or don't have to share their status, which it's private. You shouldn't have to share your medical status to attend a homecoming. That is not a free country, in my opinion. That is not where we should be striving for, what we should be doing. It's wrong, in my opinion. Dr. Dennis says it took more than 5 years for Vioxx to be pulled from the market in more than 80 countries. Big Pharma kicked and screamed that their product was safe and effective, making more than $2.5 billion. All the while, they knew their product increased the risk of heart attack and stroke. Retweet and share. And yeah, I mean, just looking at the hospital data, it was obvious while it was happening, and they changed the hospital data to be difficult to read or difficult to access. They removed the vax status of people because of what it was showing, and they were saying that backs up anti-vaxxers' claims. Yeah, I guess it does, doesn't it? Oh, well, it's more complicated than that. I guess you should try and explain it then. And some people were saying, well, they're older, and so XYZ. People who were getting boosted or people who were getting the shots, etc., were older, and so it makes sense that they're dying. And I thought it's kind of a cop-out. Then if it's that easy, like show us that. But I don't think it was that easy. And I think that if they had dug into it, they would have had uncomfortable questions, so they didn't engage. And they just smeared people instead. And here we are now, right? With zero accountability. Is that being lied to? I guess so. We were lied to. Toronto Star says, Trudeau government considering end to COVID-19 vaccination mandate at border and random testing sources. It's very interesting that this is what they're testing. I thought this was the ArriveCan app being scrapped or being allowed to expire, but I guess that's not on the table. Rereading this. Nope, I was right. It is the end of the ArriveCan app that would be scrapped in the suite of the package that would scrap the whole thing. Here's the article. The federal government is considering turning the page on pandemic-era restrictions by ending the COVID-19 vaccination mandate at the border and scrapping random testing requirements, the Star has learned. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his cabinet have yet to make a final decision, but several sources confirm ministers will soon weigh in on a move that could also spell the end of the unpopular ArriveCan app. That would mean unvaccinated foreigners would once again be allowed to visit Canada. Unvaccinated Canadians would also no longer face fines of up to $5,000 if they couldn't show proof of a negative COVID-19 test or a previous positive infection before entering the country, and would no longer need to quarantine at home for 14 days and be subject to on-arrival testing. So we'll see. We'll see how it all works out. I'm very interested to see if we scrap all this stuff. If the infrastructure remains in place that they can just bring it back at the drop of a hat because reasons, I won't like that. So I don't know. I don't know where this is going to go next. Here is Jennifer, and she says, quote, "This is an extremely effective teacher. All the kids really love being in the class," says the school board chair. And the kids can't say how uncomfortable they are when the adults in charge have declared it bigotry not to validate this teacher's fetish. And I do think this is more fetishistic than, is that a word? More of a fetish thing than a respect my gender ideology thing. Any woman that I have ever met would, if they had large breasts, would never put them that close to a radial saw. when it's on. Like, holy smoke, especially without a bra on or anything like that. They would never go into a shop class with a bunch of teenage boys without a bra on. And I've worked in a lot of schools for a long time. I've never met a teacher who thought it would be acceptable to go to shop class without a bra. And that's the social standard where we live currently. And I don't think that's out of line to expect that. And so this is not gender expression that needs to be respected. This is someone acting out a fetish, it looks like to me. So here's the Toronto Sun article on the whole thing. Halton School Board prepares for backlash over trans high school teacher. What makes this person trans? Is this person transitioning into being a female, or what's the status on that? Why is this acceptable in a school? I don't understand the rationale of anything. And pretending like there's no questions here, that's not valid, I don't think. There's obvious questions here. Okay. The Halton District School Board is, quote, standing behind an accepted transgender teacher who has gone viral in social media video posts. In addition, HSDB Chair Margot Shuttleworth tells the Toronto Sun that staff are looking at, quote, going through creating a safety plan to ensure the Oakville Trafalgar High School teachers' security as they prepare for potential protests when the school opens for classes Monday. Putting the kids at the center of this is a very bad idea. Typically, in years past, the board would suspend the teacher with pay pending a decision about X, Y, Z. There would not be having protests at the school over a teacher dressed like that. I think does more harm than good. And I think removing the teacher from the situation to diffuse the situation, period, and have somebody else in to teach the class for a little while Halton figures out a way forward would probably be the best way to go about this. Kind of enticing protests and counter protests at the school. What kind of insanity is this? What madness is this? It doesn't make any sense. And this is not the fault of people protesting or counter protesting. It's the fault of the school board for allowing the situation to go forward. This is terrible. This is a bad decision. It's irresponsible. Protecting any person's gender rights is the stance the school board is taking, and they're standing behind this teacher, said Shuttleworth. Pre-transitioning, the teacher was known to students and faculty as a male and went by a man's name, but the teacher now identifies as a woman and is referred to with a female name. The school board says it sees her simply as a good teacher. Quote, this teacher who teaches shop and is an extremely effective teacher, said Shuttleworth. All the kids really love being in the class. Interesting word choice. But videos posted on social media showed the Oakville industrial arts teacher who began identifying as a female last year appearing in class with large prosthetic breasts while operating a circular saw, which has created much commentary. So here's the video. And again, this is not, having long hair, you wouldn't be allowed to have long hair in a shop class like that because if it wasn't a wig, it'd like de-scalp you. So it's just mind-blowing how this person who this school board is saying is an exemplar, is a great teacher, is demonstrating improper shop safety in this video. And I'm not going to play the video because it's crazy, but go watch the video. It's not safe what this person's doing. And it bears a discussion. It bears a serious discussion. And it does not mean that the kids should be victimized or put in the middle of protests and counter protests, or the school should be put in the middle of that. They shouldn't. They should protect the kids. They should act proactively. They shouldn't have that teacher there while all of this is bubbling over, because that's not appropriate. And obviously the catalyst to this is the teacher and not the students. It's not the student's fault. It's not the parents' fault for being upset about this. It is the teacher who's the focal point of this, right? And so an easy way to diffuse this is to remove the teacher from the situation. Are they going to do that? It makes sense. That would be the mature way to deal with this, honestly. But they're not going to do that. And they're going to put kids in harm's way to make a political point. It's insane. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, back to this. Already, thanks to videos recorded by students, the school has been receiving comments on the matter. Quote, there will be protesters and there will be anti-protesters, said Shuttleworth. Anti-protesters, counter-protesters. I do know there have been phone calls made to the school and that haven't been that haven't been the most pleasant in nature. She said that her position to the HDSB Director of Education, Curtis Ennis, is to, quote, make sure she, the teacher, is protected and ensure that everybody remains safe. The Sun has reached out to the teacher for comment, but so far has not received a response. The teacher, who the Sun has decided not to name at this point, has not had any previous issues that have come to the attention of the board. We've had no phone calls prior to this saying anything about it, said Shuttleworth. But having said that, Shuttleworth acknowledges that there has to be some disconnect because one of the students created this video. Some of the concerns that have been expressed on social media, including one student taking to Twitter to write, the kids here most definitely don't think it's normal, but realistically, we can't say anything. Last year, the teacher was a man. I don't think the school can fire him. In fact, Shuttleworth said that the employee will be supported, adding that the teacher is completely accepted and welcomed to the school community as far as the staff is concerned. Who's going to speak up in the classroom and say, your nipples are not appropriate here? Who's going to be the teacher who says that? Oh, everybody's supporting this teacher. Every single person knows that if they say, this is garbage and damaging and we shouldn't do this, you're the one who's going to be taken out and not the teacher who's dressed like this. That's the problem right now. I'm telling you, that's it. Sorry. That's what it's boiling down to. If you took an anonymous poll, I can guarantee you there'd be some dissent. Dean says, one does not need to be a rocket scientist to suggest that coming to a school dressed like an outrageous drag queen, whether a man who identifies as female or a biological female, is highly inappropriate. Yeah, it boils it down nicely. This is Levy. Halton School Board fails to handle teachers obscene coming out. So Levy goes hard against this. Transgender Ontario high school teacher. I don't know what makes this person transgender. Just declaring yourself transgender. If I walk around with giant fake breasts on and tell everybody they have to call me female, do people call me is that legitimate just because I say so? Why is that legitimate? Why does everybody have to pretend that that's something that is not out of the norm, especially in this situation where you're setting an example in a high school for kids? This is outside of the norm. If a woman dressed like this, again, outside of the norm, I guarantee you it would be a problem if a woman left school, and I used this yesterday, but if a female person, biologically female person, left school in June, got very large breast implants with nipples that were constantly erect, not erect, not a Richter set, but the principal, the management team, the administrative team would support that person and say, you got to support those things ASAP with a good bra and maybe a blazer or an overcoat or something to that effect, et cetera, et cetera. This would not be, everybody would not say, we really support your body expression, I guess, because we're a school and it distracts from education. And I'm sorry that you feel like you need to dress like this, but it's not appropriate in a school because we have kids around. Thanks. And we all thought probably that was obvious. Anyway, again, I don't know that hiding behind the transgender ideology or saying that I'm transgender that forgives dressing like this in a school. The two things don't make sense. Just one thing does not excuse the other. Okay. Anyway, the teacher, Kayla Lemieux, was photographed in the shop class. She teaches at Oakville Trafalgar High School, wearing what appears to be a busty prosthetic under a very tight shirt, showing fake nipples along with biking shorts and blonde hair, likely a wig. She is seen in class, both speaking and demonstrating woodcutting on a saw, while her fake breasts hover dangerously close. Other shots show her walking both inside the halls of the school and outside, wearing a purple mask to match her tight shirt. Right? If you look in the top left of this, Tim Poole makes a very eagle eye view. I don't know why I can't populate it on the other side. It's not working the way it usually does, but apologies. According to websites selling these prosthetic breasts, the largest pair can weigh up to 35 pounds. Both Lemieux and the school's principal, Meredith Camisel, did not respond to a True North request for comment on the appropriateness of her presentation. But on Friday afternoon, the school removed a list of staff and their email addresses from the website. Reports say the teacher, Stephen Hanna, identified as a male last year. He is listed on LinkedIn as a manufacturing technology teacher. And so there's the videos. At first, many Twitter users believed that the pictures to be a parody, given their outrageousness, but it would appear that students in the shop class took the photos and vouched for their authenticity. Although somewhat quieter than other Ontario school boards, the Halton District School Board appears to be no less woke. The board's recently appointed director, Curtis Ennis, came directly from the Toronto District School Board, which has taken a leadership role in its effort to push radical gender and anti-black racism ideologies. HSDB's gender expression policy, created in October 2021, indicates that students and staff have a right to equitable treatment based on gender identity and gender expression. Right, but the kids have a right to a place that doesn't expose them to somebody's fetish, and it doesn't expose them to somebody acting in a way that makes people feel uncomfortable. Can you imagine having to go to that class every day? What if his breast got caught up in a circular saw or something like that? How do you respond? The HDSB is committed to establishing and maintaining a safe, caring, inclusive, equitable, and welcoming learning and working environment for all members of the school community, staff included, who identify as transgender. Under the dress codes, the policy states that all students should be permitted to wear the clothing of their choice, provided that the clothing does not violate the school's dress code. That section indicates dress codes will be developed, permitting students to express their gender identity. There's no indication in this policy what constitutes a suitable dress code for transgender teachers. But one does not need to be a rocket scientist to suggest that coming to school dressed like an outrageous drag queen, whether a man who identifies as a female or a biological female, is highly inappropriate. Lemieux may have felt the need to make a statement, but coming out as a female is obscene, not at all conducive to classroom learning. Most Twitter commenters agree that they don't care whether a teacher is transgender, but Lemieux's choices are beyond the pale. Instead of hiding behind their gender policy or removing the names of staff people from the Oakville Trafalgar High School website, it would be nice to see the HDSB act as adults and take a measured common sense approach to this teacher. At the moment, if we had to give this school's marks for mishandling the situation, it would be a double F. They absolutely failed. Here is more on this and all of that stuff. And I just wanted to show you, here's Rambo, and he found the breasts. He says, "These may be the breasts in question. Imagine being allowed to wear these in a school." Right? Okay. So if you're interested in that, you can find out the breasts in question on the table. This is Sue Ann Levy as well. She's the author of the piece we just read. And Rye is responding to her. She says, "In York Region, this is my daughter's English assignment. We're failing an entire generation of kids, and I worry about their future. Deconstructing Jack and the Beanstalk. Your task, read the story Jack and the Beanstalk, then work with your group to analyze and apply terms and concepts for the feminist and gender queer lens below. Remember to include examples and refer back to your notes if needed. And applying the post-colonial and CRT lens, analyzing Curious George. Your task, work with your group to go through each section of the story and consider what post-colonial and CRT concepts and terms can be applied. Remember to revisit your notes if needed." Pretty wild. No, thank you. Not today, right? Here's Redux, and they have the, I don't know why I'm saying things so weird today. I thought they had the letter from the from the Hamilton District School Board. There was a letter put out that basically said that they're going to stand by the teacher. And I thought that there was a whole reproduction on this page, but I got the link wrong, so apologies about that. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Marissa says, "This is the reply I got from the superintendent. The Halton District School Board is committed to establishing and maintaining a safe, caring, and inclusive, equitable, and welcoming learning and working environment for all students and staff." If you say that, and then you expose students to a teacher who is fetishizing something and committing very concerning behavior in a classroom, behavior that is concerning, exposing children to prosthetic breasts with erect nipples without any kind of real care for how that looks, etc., that's distracting for the learning environment. It's very interesting that they're using all of this long line of words to hide behind What does that mean in this context? A safe, caring, inclusive, equitable, and welcoming learning and working environment for all students and staff. You're not doing that. They're not doing that. Anyway, back to this. We strive to promote and support a positive learning environment in schools consistent with the values of the school board and to ensure a safe and inclusive learning and working environment for all students, staff, and the community, regardless of their race, age, ability, sex, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, ethnicity, religion, cultural observance, socioeconomic circumstances, or body type and size. The HDSB recognizes, what about the prosthetic type and size? And it's not a body part, it's just something that they put on every day. Everybody's gonna, what if you started wearing like a sumo wrestler suit and you said, listen, I identify as a sumo wrestling unicorn and this is my gender expression. Is everybody going to be cool with that? Everybody's fine with just putting on prosthetics that you can buy on eBay? It doesn't make sense. If you have a body and you are very fat or very thin, or you have a problem with controlling your weight and so you fluctuate or something like that, that doesn't bother me. I'm not going to judge you. That is up to you and you alone. You get to decide what goes in your body. You get to decide how much you eat, all of that stuff. Like, that's you, man. Deal with you. Everybody's got their thing. I understand. But if you're putting on prosthetic breasts and then going into a classroom with tight tops and short shorts and a wig on, that's not the other thing. That's not accepting everybody's body. That's a different thing altogether. There's a big difference between the two things. I don't mean to get fixated on this, but the idea that you cannot question something as obviously improper as what's going on in the Halton District School Board is exactly the problem with education right now. The kids can't speak up. The teachers can't speak up. Who's going to speak up? The principal is saying we have to accept everybody's gender expression. That's not a gender expression. That's a fetish. I'd get fired. I'd get fired because I'd be the guy who says it. I'd be like, yeah, nope. I've got a problem. Do you see my head up? I worked at the Waterloo Regional District School, the Waterloo Catholic Board, and I was a youth care worker, and they hired a bunch of youth care workers to deliver direct care to kids who need it, right? And there's a lot of kids who need direct, like 1-to-1 or 1-to-3 or something like that care, and they try and put them all in the same classroom so they can maximize the supports, etc. And so one year when I worked there, they brought all the youth care workers in at the end of a youth care worker meeting, and they brought up the psychiatrist that they were hiring, and it was a new psychiatrist. And I thought, they're going to get rid of youth care workers for these consultants. This psychiatrist did a presentation about how she was going to consult and help the school set up plans and make sure that the plans were followed and all sorts of stuff. And I put my hand up and I said, so how many of us do you represent? If there's like 5 of you, because right now there's 1 of you, if there's 5 of you, how many of us have to go? And my boss got so mad. He's jumped right up. He's like, that's not the time for this question. I was like, well, when is the time for that question? The decision's already been made, I guess. Everybody should just be aware that you guys cost money and we cost money, and they're not paying for both, everyone. And don't you know it? 10 was the number. It was 10 of us youth care workers who got axed for the consultants. So everybody got mad at me. And then I got emailed back, you were right. I was like, I know I was right. That's why I said it. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I thought it was super funny. But I'm not surprised that things are happening. I could see it happening in the school boards when I worked there. And it was something that I hoped wouldn't come out to the rest of the world. But I mean, that was naive. We're all naive sometimes, right? Some more than most. Wah, wah. Anyway, the Halton board is using language to hide, and it's not appropriate. And I think that the kids are being victimized here, and the kids are suffering, and it's not appropriate. That's the end of that. Jason says, this is the takeaway from Blog TO. This is far from the first time that a woman educator has been criticized widely online for wearing something deemed inappropriate or distracting to work, nor is it the first time that a teacher from the LGBT group community has been harassed for expressing their identity. That's not the problem here. That's not the problem here. The problem here is it's inappropriate and it distracts from the learning. Your gender identity is your gender identity, and you can do whatever you want with that, except force it down other people's throat in a fetishistic way. I'm going to go with fetishistic is a word today, in a fetishy kind of way. Okay, so if you have a problem with this, and it's okay if you have a problem with this, I think, I have a problem with this. I don't have any problem saying that I think this is a massive, massive issue that has been self-created, and we've shot ourselves in the foot. And in order to fix shooting ourselves in the foot, we're about to cut ourselves off at the knees. Both of them. Man, I shot myself in the foot. How do we fix this? Get rid of those legs. And what's happening here is Jane put her Twitter to silent, or to locked, so nobody can see her Twitter, because I guess she was getting a lot of invites to come on shows. I invited her to come on my show to talk about all of these red flags and explain why she thought they were red flags. Guess she didn't like that, because Jane says these are red flags for school board trustees. She says, embracing diversity of opinion. All voices are needed. Give parents, students, and staff their voices back. That's a red flag. Board has weaponized rules. Yeah, that's a red flag. Redirect focus to academic excellence. Oh, how dare we talk about academic excellence, right? Honor the rights of all parents. Parents' rights? Put an end to identity politics. Yes, we should have identity politics in schools. Have you seen this massive-breasted woman who refuses to cover their prosthetically erect nipples? Again, these are things that I did not think I had to talk about about schools in Ontario in 2022. What an insane thing to have to deal with. What do the girls think of this? Do you think that there are any like teenage girls from the Trafalgar High School who would be interested in like giving us a write-up of like anonymous? Send me an email, admin@canadapoly.com. If you're interested, just sharing your thoughts on what this school board standing behind this teacher makes you think. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. I don't know that supportive is the right word. And Chanel says, since deleted the list of the red flags to look out for in other school trustee nominees created by Waterloo Regional District School Board trustee candidate Jane Herring. And it's a wonder. It's not a wonder that she deleted it, but it's a wonder how that list could seem like a good idea. It seems like a terrible idea, I think. Here's Christopher F. Rufo, and he's an American guy. He's talking about critical race theory. I've sent him the stuff that I've done on critical race theory. There's all sorts of people who are now talking about this, but he was talking about it before it was cool. He exposed Disney's critical race theory training, and there was, I think, a Walmart training that he exposed. So there's a whole bunch of things that he's exposed and given public light to. And he's talking about critical race theory in Ontario. He says, Canadian math teacher says 2 + 2 = 4 is white supremacy. So here's the tweet, right? And she's got a locked account. But Heather says, there are many math education practices that we, white folk, don't see as racist or supremacist because they're so ingrained in our background and experiences, and we have been the ones to benefit from them. Thanks, Jason Toe, for shining a light on these. White supremacy in math education. And it's a pyramid, and I'm not going to read through any of that because I'm not subscribed to the idea that math, which is a way to describe the physical, measurable world, and also a way to use numbers in an abstract way to represent real things, but math is supposed to be pretty solid and material. It's if you have one apple and then you add another apple, and we can all agree that now 1 + 1 apple plus 1 apple equals 2 apples. And if you had a group of 3 apples and times it by 2, right? You'd have 2 groups of 3 apples, right? 2 times 3 is, you'd have 6 apples, right? So math is, regardless of which way you slice it, a way to describe the measurable world. It's supposed to be tangible. And yeah, it can be abstract, but that's just using something to describe a measurable thing, I think. And saying that that's inherently a white supremacy thing and then making up a whole nonsense graph to prove your point, I think that's stupid. I think it's at base absolutely stupid. And giving it any air or credence or anything like that, absolutely insane. And I can't believe that there's so many teachers out there who are ascribing to this idea of white supremacy and blah, 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 because it's false. It's faulty. It's false. It's a lie. And these people should be able to see through this lie, but they're not. They're certainly not. And that's concerning. All right, let's talk about the government a little bit. Justin Trudeau, yesterday afternoon, I guess, on the 17th, was at Buckingham Palace. He says, this afternoon at Buckingham Palace, I met with His Majesty Charles III. I offered my condolences to him and members of the royal family as they mourn the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. My thoughts and the thoughts of many Canadians continue to be with them. I don't know who wrote that, but it's clumsy and it didn't finish well. Terrible. Senator Housakis is responding again. Justin Trudeau says, I'm heading to New York next week for the UN General Assembly, where I'll meet with other leaders to address the world's biggest challenges. Together, we'll keep working to take climate change action, take climate action, create good jobs, and more. Get the details here. They haven't done that. They haven't done that. And Senator Housakis says, just inflation is taking another trip, apparently to address a problem he created. He should start by retiring and scrapping this Trudeau's government's inflationary policies that are devastating Canadian taxpayers. Yeah. I hope that this whole era finishes soon, because I'm so done with the Trudeau period of Canada. It's just been damaging. It's nothing good. Nothing good's come of Trudeau. Comrade says, Canadian feds caught pouring toxic substances into water supply. No-X fish toxin is specially formulated product containing rotenone, I think, used in fisheries management for the eradication of fish from lakes, streams, ponds, and reservoirs. Caught them red-handed. Why would they be doing that? You have to wonder, right? Possibly should have been in the food section, but why would they be doing that? Very strange. Oh no, climate change is impacting the yield of fish year to year, right? Just imagine. Here's the food professor. He says, new paper released by ML Institute suggests 87% of Canadian professors identify as left-leaning, while 40% of professors on the right said they face a hostile work environment. This is why academic freedom is hurting. Earlier, we were talking about how no student, no teacher has spoken up about how they don't like this teacher in the classroom. I'll tell you, I'm dealing with and trying to deal with a problem at the Upper Grand District School Board, and they're trying to just ignore me. They're trying to make me go away by not solving my problem. What I want to know is how using disruptive tweets are governed. What's the methods for disruptive tweets? Like, what are the written methods? What are the expected outcomes? What are the success criteria? What are the terms of using these disruptive tweets? And how long are we going to be using this language? And what language is approved? And all sorts of questions. They don't have any of these answers. And I know they don't have any of these answers. So instead of, and they say that the policy that I used to say that they're violating their policy is the policy they used to put out these racist communications. I said, where? Can you highlight the language? And they have stonewalled me. They haven't said anything. So if you say, dear principal, I have some issues with this. Here's the issues, blah, 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 blah. If you're a teacher, they call you in and they say, do you want to keep your job? And you say, yeah. And they say, then stop talking about that. Yep. Been in that meeting. They told me that. And I said, oh, really? I said, all right, well, time to start looking for another job then, I guess. Thanks for the heads up. Do I want to keep my job? Anyway, regardless, no, thanks. See you later. But they do put pressure on people like that if they're not going to fall in line, right? And so if you speak out at the school board, they'll tell you, if you're working there, they'll tell you, be quiet or you're done. If you're a parent, they'll try and call you and tell you, this is what they told me. We appreciate you sharing your difference of opinion with us, and we'll take it under advisement. And I said, no. I want the tweet deleted because it's racist. And they said, he didn't have the authority to do it. And I knew he didn't. I know he doesn't. And I told them that at the beginning. I said, I know you won't be able to help me, but that's okay. We're going to go through the argument just anyway. But this is the argument, and this is why. And I'm looking forward to discussing this with the director of education. And they haven't called me back. They haven't set a meeting. I keep asking them if they've got my emails. Like, can you confirm receipt of this email? And they keep confirming receipt of the email, but they don't answer any of the questions. So it's very interesting. Even if you complained, they would stonewall you so your complaint didn't register. So they could say, oh, nobody's complained. Even if there's 10 people complaining, they'll stonewall them all. Really? So I wish that was true. I wish it wasn't true, but I'm living it right now. I've got all the emails to prove it, and I'm going to publish them because transparency, and it's important. Yeah. So, and I can't wait because I think that the director owes an explanation and owes parents an explanation of how this stuff is even managed at what level it's managed. How can we understand what's being done and why? And how can we know if it's being effective if there's no methods or success criteria? Otherwise, it's just people posting racist garbage for nothing. What anti-black racism are we particularly trying to address? Which specific incident? It's ridiculous. They don't have those answers, and I know it. Here's an election-related post. So, sorry, before I move on. So if you try and solve the problem, they will do everything they can to silence you, and they will claim that nobody tried to solve the problem. There's no problem here. What problem? Okay, moving into the election. Here is Sarah, and she is a candidate for mayor in Toronto. And she says, bizarre, Rogers just emailed me to sell me ads to advertise my mayoral campaign. But aren't they still paying the current mayor $100,000 per year? Rogers, when you stop funding my opponent, I'll consider your offer. Yeah, Rogers, the media company Rogers. The owner of the media company is John Tory. He is part of the Rogers Control Trust. Go look into it. It's pretty wild. He's a chair, or like every other year, they take turns being the chair. So yeah, pretty crazy, right? And Rogers pays him, and they refuse to run Faith Goldie's ads. It worked a treat because Faith Goldie didn't win, right? Yeah. Anyway, here's Radio Geneva. French en masse against Macron. Ursula von der Leyen. The EU, NATO, sanctions on Russia, price increases in gas and energy restrictions, demonstrations censored by European media. Yes, the media is censoring big time, massively. Massive censorship all over the place. Holy smoke, it's already an hour? Jeepers creepers, I thought it was like 37 minutes. I was like, yeah, quick show today. Nope. Food Professor, the last one for today. London-based Aspire Foods in Ontario has landed a multi-million-dollar deal to sell its crickets. They're selling it to South Asian confection company. So the South Asian confection company is buying the cricket powder. I don't know if they call it cricket flour, but it's cricket powder or whatever it is. And that's going to be going there. And so if you go down the South Asian aisle, make sure that it doesn't have cricket powder in the food, because I think they're trying to backdoor it. So like have the food made somewhere else, make it seem like it's far away, and then just import the food back. And I mean, that's how we get cheap garlic, and there's all sorts of things imported from China that could be grown here but aren't, because it's cheaper to grow there and ship it here, which doesn't seem like it makes sense. I don't know how that makes sense, but I guess it does, because they keep doing it, right? So pretty wild. All right, that's enough out of me today. There's so many crazy things happening, man. How do you encapsulate it all, right? I think the boob story is probably a good kind of bellwether for everything we're dealing with, because even if you did try to solve the problem, at any level, there are gatekeepers who would head you off at the pass. So nobody at any level can really effectively address this, because they're hiding behind, that's a gender ideology thing, and we can't do anything about that. So, and they're doing the same thing for COVID restrictions and climate change and energy and everything. Oh, well, I mean, we'd love to help you, but, we all know CO2 is bad. So, can't have any more pipelines. Shucks, right? Because that's bad for you. And yes, we know starving's bad, but in 100 years, you'll thank us. I think maybe we'd like to eat now. Thank you. So yeah, there's just lots of issues and no real path to solving the issues, because every vector seems to have a middle manager type who is able to derail any kind of pushback. And it's super effective, super effective. And how to get through it, I don't even know if winning an election is enough, because you have to have enough of a coalition to make a real difference, right? Otherwise, you're just an obstructionist vote, and they'll cut you out, just like they did to Mike Ramsey, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's terrible, but true. All right, that's enough out of me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out all the other stuff I do on Speaking Moistly and the rest, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.